Guys, welcome back. So I was still commenting. Let me just restart here the comment on the variances. Variances, we are commenting, okay? We are saying when is it unfavorable? And I'm saying for cost expenses that we incur, you're saying it is unfavorable if you're spending more than what you actually had budgeted for. Cost. Okay. Then you're saying for incomes, you're saying it's the reverse. Standard cost is now not standard cost, right? Standard incomes is now greater than actual incomes. And the reason is really clear here that whenever your cost is high, that means that your profits are going to reduce. And yet one of the firm's objectives is to maximize your profits. So at all times, you want to maximize your revenues and minimize your costs. Whenever that is touched or gone the reverse way, it always becomes unfavorable. And then for favorable, this is the opposite. So I don't want to write it again. Now I'm going to look at labor variance or labor cost variance. Okay, this one I'll be fast because you already know what to do, because the same as material. What's changing here is that you're calling it labor. Okay, maybe to respond to your chats. Okay, Chiravo, we want to laugh also. Why are you laughing? Kindly share with us the joke. We laugh with you. Otherwise, under labor variance, you're looking at the total labor cost and the actual labor cost. I'm just going to begin with this one on top so that I'm sure you're picking out here. So saying total actual cost. Bottom line, we're still comparing. I don't want to lose that track. The issue is comparing here. So looking at total actual cost in terms of labor, then total standard cost in terms of labor. So in comparing, we're saying it's big minus small. Okay, I'll try to now use the other way around. So we're saying here, what happens if your total standard cost is bigger than your total actual cost? Okay, saying it is favorable. Okay. You're spending less, yeah, right? So therefore, in case this is the issue or this is the outcome after comparing or after seeing, you're saying our labor cost variance is going to be equal to our total standard cost because it's big minus total actual cost because it's small. Okay. And then of course it will be favorable automatically. At all times, you must have a positive variance. That's what I'm trying to put across. It's big minus small. So if I may look at now the breakdown. Now we're saying that on this, if you say favorable, okay, which is true. The problem is that when you just use labor cost variance for a manager, it's very hard to know where is the nice part coming from. Is it coming from the fact that maybe we are bargaining very well in terms of rates and therefore our employees are working so hard at a low cost, or for some other reason? Yeah. Then alternatively, you say for labor hours, are these guys giving us much time as we expect, or they actually being eyed at all times? Okay, so you can't comment on labor cost variance without the breakdown. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so that's why the breakdown always comes in. Let's shall look at labor rate variance. Okay, so based on the labor rate variance, you can easily comment what is increasing our rates, what's reducing our rates. And so it's easy for you to advise as a manager or take a decision. So just like under material, you're looking at the rate. So the rate, you're interested in the actual rate and the standard rate. Okay. If the standard rate is higher, we are saying that's a good thing because you're spending less. If it is lower, then we're saying it's not good, it's unfavorable. Okay. So so the formula remains the same, that you say labor rate variance. Okay, and unfortunately I'm using letters, but I'm sure you're still cover. Okay, so we compare with the actual quantity, or let me say actual labor hours. Okay, otherwise it's quantity really. Okay, times open brackets. I'm saying this is the difference between your actual rate and the standard rate. Okay, so if I may still stick to the other one, we're saying if your standard rate is higher than actual rate, then you're saying this is a good thing because you're being efficient by bargaining. You're good at bargaining as a business, which is a good thing. Then if you go to, now this is rate, so I hope we are now can go to the next thing, which is labor. Usage, or you can say labor efficiency. Variance. So this one here, still just like a material, it looks at quantity. Now for labor, we look at hours. The more hours you spend on the work and things like that. So therefore, once you talk of usage, the first thing you want to think about is what was my actual labor hours that actually spent or we spent at work. Then you say, what's the standard labor hour or hours? These are quantities. Then you compare as usual. So in comparing, I'm still emphasizing this big minus what? Minus small. Okay, and the same thing you're saying, if your standard labor hours are more than actual labor hours, you're saying this is good. This is good. You guys are producing the same level of material at fewer hours. This is a good thing, right? It's favorable. Then same thing. So we say now labor usage officially, labor usage variance is going to be equal to, okay, remember material, we say you bring the standard price, now in this case to be the standard rate, times the difference. Okay, now unfortunately for this one, I don't have a question from past papers. I'll just give a scenario. Okay. So we're giving assumptions here. Okay. Now I'll say if my actual rate in terms of labor, we're looking at labor, yeah? If my actual rate is maybe just 10,000, okay, and then your standard rate, okay, is actually 15,000, right? Then assuming that your actual labor hours for them, now I'm going to make a difference just for understanding. So in this case, I will say, let's say, okay, 500 hours. Then for standard labor hours, we shall put this time 350. Okay, so this is our information that we have. Mind you, rates are per hour. Okay, they always give you a price per hour. That's a standard rate or a rate. Okay, just like prices, they give you selling prices. They give you price of a single unit. So if you have to continue now, someone wants you to compute labor, find labor cost variance. Okay. Then labor variance, then labor efficiency. Okay, they want answers for this. So we're saying I'll start with the rates. We shall comment on the labor cost later. So labor rate, labor rate variance. said what you do is you bring your actual rate. In this case, it was 10,000. Okay. And then standard rate. In this case, it was 15,000. Okay. We compare which one is bigger, standard rate. So automatically, my formula for labor rate variance, maybe I think that I need is the actual labor hours. I need this for the formula. So I'm saying my labor rate variance is going to be equal to my actual labor hours times the difference, and the difference we say it is big. Now the big one, in this case, it is standard rate. It's the big one minus actual rate. Okay. Then you substitute. We have 500 into SR is 15,000. Then minus actual is 10,000. Okay. So you can comment in your chat or in the chat. Is this favorable or unfavorable? Okay. Is this favorable or unfavorable? Someone saying favorable. Okay. So why would she say favorable? Say that because the labor rate actual is lower than the standard rate, it's favorable. Okay. You're not basing on this 500 on this. Is it how much is this? You're not basing on this to comment. Yeah. You're not basing on this. You're basing on these ones here. But when you compared, the actual rate was actually lower than the standard rate, and therefore you're being efficient or you're being cost effective, and therefore it's favorable for the business. Okay. So thanks, Zoom user. You can go to the next item, labor usage variance. For labor usage variance, it is usage. Yeah. So you're thinking of quantities. Now we look at the actual labor hours. In this case, they were given as 500, and then you're given the standard labor hours. This time they were 350. All right. So then what we need, the other thing is usually standard price. Yeah, we need this one, standard rate in this case, not standard price, standard rate. Okay, it is 15,000. Okay, so as usual, you draft the formula. Okay, and we're saying the formula is going to be labor usage variance. It's going to be standard rate, which is constant, times big. What is big? Big is actual labor hours minus small, which is standard labor hours. Okay. Substitute in the formula. Respond to your chats. All right, Justin. Okay. So if you may substitute in, we're saying 15,000 times our actual labor hours, we have 500 minus standard is 350. Okay. Therefore, our answer is going to be none other than, by the way, you can comment still, is this favorable or unfavorable? Is this favorable or unfavorable? The labor usage. Okay, 2.5. All right, yeah, good. Someone saying adverse. The other name for unfavorable is adverse. Not good. Adverse is not good. Okay, so this is unfavorable. So as you can see, if you see that one side is favorable and the other is unfavorable. Now, if I'd gotten our labor, let's look at our labor cost variance. Let me put it here. Labor cost variance, the big picture. Okay, and we're saying for labor cost variance, you just compare the total standard cost in terms of labor and the total actual cost still labor. Okay, and here we know that this is the same as standard rate times standard labor hours. Then for total quantity, we're saying it's actual rate times actual labor hours. Okay, for total actual cost. So we're comparing these two. So still we look at the figures and see which one is bigger. And so we start with. So when you come here, we're saying our actual rate is 10,000. Then our quantity labor hours will be 500. So this is about 5M. Then for the rate, this times the 350. So I need to confirm this times that. It is 2.5. So it's actually bigger. Okay. So therefore, our formula will be labor cost variance is going to be equal to standard rate or total standard cost minus total actual cost. Okay, then we substitute. So in substituting, our total cost, we're saying it is 15,000 times 350. Okay, then minus 10,000 times 500. Okay. So maybe someone can still comment. Do you think it's favorable or unfavorable? By just looking at it, is it favorable or unfavorable? Labor cost. Favorable or unfavorable? Okay, it's 250. Since no one is commenting, we're saying that if you are like we're clearly you're saying here the total cost, the standard is higher. So someone is saying something. Let me respect that. Someone saying it's favorable. Okay. And they're saying it's favorable because of obvious reasons that you're spending less than what you budgeted for, or what you said. Okay, hence favorable. Okay, so how do these? So this is how managers cannot comment just straight. Because if you look at labor cost variance and you're saying it's favorable, you're tempted to think that everybody is doing well, and yet that's not the case. So that's why we break down labor cost variance into labor rate variance and labor usage variance. To know where there's an efficiency or inefficiency, then we try to take corrective action. Okay, so if I may put the other format where we say that the labor cost variance will be equal to the labor price, all right, in this case, variance, plus, depending on whether it's adverse or not, okay, plus or minus, labor usage variance. Okay. So I'll one confirm labor rate, we saw it is 2,500 and it's favorable. So that's positive, yeah. Then when you come to usage, it is 250, but it's unfavorable. So when you're adding them together, the big one takes it all. Okay, the big one is favorable. So favorable will be positive, therefore. So say labor cost variance will be equal to 2.5 minus, because the one is unfavorable, 250. Okay. So I have to give you 250, just like the one we got up, this one here. So guys, this is how we deal with variances, and that's how we comment. Okay. Unless you have any questions, I've covered standard costing and variance. Unfavorable. Why are you saying it's unfavorable? Zoom user. For labor cost variance, it is favorable in this case, because you're saying that you're spending less than what you budgeted for. And you're saying it's a good thing because your profits will be overstated or will go high. So let's look at flexing of the budget. I know I already discussed it, but I have a number here. I want to do that. Then we call it a night, at least, for as far as budgets are concerned. Okay. So there's a question I have here. If you don't have any questions on standard variance, maybe if I share the question I have, I can look at this 25-mark question, what they was asking about everything. They said, question 4, explain, I hope you can see it because I don't have a brighter picture. Explain the circumstances under which variance analysis can result in favorable variance and unfavorable variance. We have talked about those. We said for favorable variance, we're saying if the actual cost is lower than the standard cost. That is a good thing. The other scenario is if your actual revenue or actual incomes are greater than your standard incomes, still that will be favorable. Okay, those are the circumstances you raise. Then for unfavorable, it's the opposite, right? Then part B says that you have just been recruited as an assistant management accountant with Makerere University Business School in the Faculty of Commerce, and you were able to attend a faculty meeting through which the dean was trying to explain to the members the importance of standard costing, and he later picked you to elaborate on the same. Okay, standard costing. So when then I was asking you, as per the dean's request, explain to the members in the meeting any 3 advantages and 2 disadvantages associated with costs or with standard costing before a final resolution can be reached. Okay, so what's the importance of what we just done? In short, so they're trying to tell you. Okay, so I want to talk about these. They are in your notes. There are very many. You can seek them out. Just to say maybe a few. For advantages of standard costing, it's more of advantages of budgeting. What's the importance of your budgeting? And they're saying things like it helps you to plan, it helps in resource allocation, among others. For the disadvantage, we know how it can be tedious and long, okay, and costly. So those are some of the disadvantages. Then when you go to part C you have seen material costing variance. You can try it out, but it's easier to try out. So what have we just done? Material costs and material price and material usage. Yeah, so that is standard costing for you. So if I may share now what I was saying. Okay, I won't spend much time on it because we already discussed this, flexing of the budget. Yes, since I've just talked about variances and they're here, I thought I could say a word or two on this. So you're given a budget, maybe just go to the required bit. What do they want? The image. Okay, this is the required bit. They say that required using a flexible budgeting approach. Flexible budgeting approach. Draft a budgetary control statement that is useful for control purposes. Okay. So we can now go and look at the question. So here is the question. They gave you, they say that the management accountant of this particular company has drafted the following operating statements for the half year ended 30th June 2017. The accountant has made an attempt to compare actual performance with the budget. And indeed, just made an attempt. And the reason is clear that the first thing you look out when you're comparing budgets is the level of activity. So when you see here the first line, they're saying that the number of units sold, and by the way, that's the level of activity. For budgets, it was 30, and then for the actual, it was 40. Okay, so I was saying, so the first thing you look at the level of activity. Now, I remember the last discussion I told you, or I told you you can't compare two ladies where one is short and one is tall, and you're comparing them. Okay, or you want to make a right comparison. It won't work out. So it's the same thing with budgets. You're saying that one is 30 at the level of 30 and the other is at the level of 40, and you want to compare them to see who is better. Yeah, it won't work. So what we do is we do the flexing. Now the flexing comes into harmonize. Okay, so your budget is at 30, so the flexible budget must also reflect the 40 actual activity, because for actual activity it doesn't change. It's what you actually incurred. So our budget must be flexed to meet the actual level of activity, and then you compare accordingly. So I'm just going to try out some two lines, two variables and two fixed, and then we call it flexing because I know you know it. Okay. So here what's happening, as you can see, even on level activity already there's a variance. So that should be a problem. So therefore you can't compare cells that you made at the level of 40 and you're comparing it to the cells you made at the level of 30. It's totally unfair. Okay. So let's look at it. Okay, so I will have my details. Okay, we're saying budget. This is the fixed budget. The one that they give you in the question becomes the fixed budget, because it can't change. Then you're supposed to flex the budget so that it reflects what they call flexed budget. So the level of activity is the same as actual, right? Then you have your variance. The variance, like we already said, already, so it's the difference between the actual and the budgeted. Then you comment. Commenting, you're saying, is it adverse or favorable? Okay, so details shall begin with the number of or the level of activity. In this case, number of goods sold. Goods sold. So we already saw that the fixed is at 30. Okay, it's at 30 units. 30. Then the actual is 40. So this is the first thing you do. You always, the flexible budget must reflect the level of activity as the actual level of activity. It's the first thing you do. So in doing that, we are saying make your flex become also what? 40,000. Now you can compare officially. So when you compare, it's always new minus old. Okay. And the new is not the flexible. No, the new is new minus old. Okay. The new is always the actual. Okay, so it's actual minus flexible. Then you comment. Of course, here you can't comment because you have a 0. Then you can look at one of the lines and see how it goes. Take you the question. Sales. They said budgeted is fixed 66. Then actual is 89. Okay. $66. And actual is 90, 89. Okay, so this is sales. These are shillings. Okay, money. So now I began dealing with money. Let me just respond to your comment. How do you know that this is flex or fixed? Okay. How you know is for a fixed budget, it's what is prepared, or it's what you have in your stock or in your, how do you call it, in your, it's what you prepared before. Okay, and usually how you know it's different from flexible, usually on the level of activity. If the level of activity of a budget is totally different from the one of the actual, that should tell you that that's what you call a fixed budget. The level of activity, that means that they prepared it before the actual. Okay. So the flexible, what it does is the level of activity must always be the same as the actual. So the flexing, what it does is it looks at the fixed budget and tries to flex it or try to change the level from where it was like 30,000 to now the actual level of activity, which is 40,000. Okay, and the flexible budget is based on the fixed budget, as you're going to see. All items come from the fixed budget. The only change is on what? Is on the level of activity. That's where the flexible budget becomes as actual. Like here I've done. Jackie, I don't know if I've answered you in that regard. Okay. Fixed is prepared before the actual activity. Then when actual activity occurs and we find that the level of activity is different, then we prepare what we call a flex budget. So that the level of activity should reflect the actual activity. Okay, that's what the flexing comes in. And I've always, like in my previous recording, I told you that we are trying to make them now, we're bringing two tall girls together and we're comparing them. There we can know who is better. Right? So, pardon, where did you get the 100? 100, where is the 100 here? Not have 100 now. Kindly either ask the question or something, because I don't have an 100 anyway. Then why didn't we put the variance? The variance, you don't put the variance because the variance is given, then we are wrong. Okay, they're actually wrong. But what you have here is the right one. Back then they were comparing a tall girl with a short girl. Yeah, and they're saying that was wrong. Right now we want to compare two tall girls and we see who is better. Okay. I hope Shakira have answered you. So why are you not putting the variance? It's because the variance, the one was wrong. They compared two individuals that don't match. Yeah. So we're now getting the right variances. Okay. So now on flexing, what we normally look out for is, it's of course we use fixed budget items. But what we look out for is what we call variable items. Items that change due to change in level of activity. Okay. And then we look at those that are fixed. These ones don't change with change in level of activity. Then we have the one that we call semi-variable. This one here is a composition of the fixed and the variable component. Okay, now, unfortunately, this question doesn't have that part. It only has variable and fixed. So that I will look at and then call it probably night. Okay. So, of course, sales, you know that these are variable. Okay, they change with what? With a change in volume. Okay. So what we do is we determine the selling price, which is gotten by selling price, gotten by the total sales, all the sales I've done, divided by the number of units. What I'm saying is, if I put it here, I'm saying it is this figure here, which is total, divided by the level of activity. This will give us the selling price. So therefore, at a level of activity of 40, of course, your sales must be selling price times level of activity. Hence, 22,000 times 40,000. Okay. That is how you end up having this. Now, the variance, where I was asking for the variance, this is where it comes in. For variance, we say it is actual, which is the new, minus old. The old is now the flexible budget. You're doing the right thing. Okay, so as you can see, this one is positive. But like I said, whether it's positive or negative, we don't mind. Our issue is on who is bigger, who is smaller. So you're seeing that your actual, and these are sales, hence incomes. So your actual is greater than your budget. So if it's greater, then you have what? Favorable. Okay. So as you can see, during flexing, even the comments have totally changed. A year side was adverse, but now it's favorable. So if I may respond to your chats, maybe small, pardon, on the 880, okay. Two shots, those, do we treat them? Fao, I don't know about the new question, right? We're saying, yes, now like here, we're saying these are two tall boys, or let's say girls, but let's use boys now. Two tall boys, you're comparing them together. Now there you're talking. There you're being fair. That's where we're saying 40 and 40. These are two tall guys, and you're not comparing them. Okay, previously we were saying there's a short guy and a tall guy, and you can't compare those two. You're not being fair. So that's what we call flexing. Flexing brings two tall people together. Then talk about the 88. The 88, we're saying that you first learn the item. Is the item variable or a fixed item? If it is variable, we're saying it changes with the level of activity. So I'm saying, therefore, at 30, sales was 66. And I'm saying the selling price must have been 2,200. And this is the formula that you get the cost, total cost divided by. Okay, in short, I'm saying we got this 2,200, okay, 2,200, and multiplied it by 30,000 to come up with a 66. That's what I'm saying in short. So therefore, we're saying if it's not 30 and instead 40, what will be the value here? You're saying you get 22 times 40, and you get the 88. Okay, let's try out another variable item before, so that you feel, we see how if you have understood anything. Okay, so let me just explain another one. You will get it. Okay, so another item. The other item is direct material. You have 3M and 4.2. 3M and 4.2.
Betty ni simba skrini ya fe tusomee